Welcome to the Roosevelt Island Immersive Bus Tour. We are excited to have you on board and thank you for taking the time to ride with us.
Hi everyone, my name is Sharon Ayalon. I'm an architect and an urban planner, and I'll be the tour guide for this immersive bus ride. With us is Glenn, our climate change expert that you just heard. He will join in every time I'll need more accurate information. In the next 20 minutes, we will dive together into a speculative future that depicts flood and sea level rise effects. A lot of people think that the climate crisis is too big and that we don't have a role to play. We want to change this attitude and think together about how to take effective, meaningful actions as a community. So, if everyone are ready, let's start the bus and start our immersive experience as deep as we can, starting with our worst nightmare. When thinking about a flood, what comes into mind? What is the worst that can happen? So, no, this is not going to happen. This is us letting our imagination run free, having fun with a science fiction scenario. To set the record clear and calm everyone down, including myself, the worst flood in recent years was Superstorm Sandy in 2012. If you look around now, this is what the island looked like during that storm. As you can see, South Park was flooded to the left of us. I've been told that North Park was flooded too, but the water did not reach the roads. When the water is so high, however, if a large boat passes, like the ferry that we can see on Manhattan side, creates waves, and those waves might reach the roads. Now that we've cleared our worst nightmare out of the way, and we had this glimpse into the past, we can pleasantly continue our cruise. And let's deepen our understanding of the expected change by looking into the future. First, we will focus on the gradual rise in sea level due to global warming. Glenn, what can you tell us about the sea level rise in New York?
The sea level off New York's coast is up to 9 inches higher than it was in 1950. The speed at which the sea level is rising is increasing. In the past, it took the sea level 50 years to rise 6 inches. It will rise another 6 inches in just 14 years.
Whoa, the same height of 6 inches in almost a fifth of the time. This is quite an acceleration. Looking outside now, this is what 6 inches of sea level rise will look like. And you are probably thinking, like me, we can barely see a change. So why does this matter so much? Maybe 10 years is not enough to understand the impact of this change. How about 20 or 30 years? You know what? Let's follow the forecast for the next 50 years. And now, when you look outside, we are 50 years into the future. The water level is 40 inches higher than it is today. And yes, we can definitely see it now. It is a significant change. And when the water level is that high, there is also an issue of a storm surge. Let's turn to Glenn to hear what a storm surge is.
A storm surge is the unusual rise of water that happens during a big tropical storm. It looks something like this. By the 2050s, 37% of buildings in lower Manhattan will be at risk of storm surge. By 2100, almost 50% of buildings will be at risk of storm surge, and 20% of lower Manhattan streets will be at risk of daily flooding due to over 6 feet of projected sea level rise.
Let's see what 6 feet of water will look like here on Roosevelt Island. We can see, for example, that the firefighters' field is flooded. Standing here, looking over to the firefighters' field, it's an opportunity to remind again that this is not a doomsday experience. We want to learn how to change this forecasted future, and we can make a difference. The firefighter field is a good example because we can show you some of the things we can do right now to fight climate change and prepare to go up and to see the things from a bird's eye view. For example, we can restore marshlands. As you can see in the video, marshlands are nature's sponges and they create a buffer zone between the water and the land. We can use permeable materials. Those are porous materials that help water infiltrate faster into the ground and prevent or reduce the amount of time that water stays on the surface. And we can plant more trees. Trees help stabilize the land, and they also slow down the process of global warming. With this in mind, let's continue our tour and take things up a notch. We are now riding at a sea level of 96 inches higher than today, 8 feet, almost 2.5 meters. This is the forecast for 100 years from now. And it's important to understand that even if we will not see those changes in our lifetime, we should act today to prevent them. We talked about sea level rise. Now let's see what a flood will look like. Glenn, what can you tell us about the next expected flood?
Although most experts don't forecast a major storm like Sandy in the next 100 years, global warming also makes floods become more frequent. Even though the sea level has only risen by 2 inches, since 2000, tidal flooding has increased by 247% in some areas of New York.
Wait. What is tidal flooding?
Tidal flooding means that there can be flooding even when there's no rain. When the ocean rises high enough, high tides cause flooding even on sunny days. Drainage systems are designed to channel excess rainwater from the streets and drain it into the sea. But with the pressure from rising sea levels and higher tides, seawater can get pushed into these pipes and spill out into the streets.
If you look now at the sewage lids on Main Street, you can see some water pouring out. This is what a tidal flooding might look like on Roosevelt Island, Main Street. In the following minutes, we will see what a flood might look like. But again, this is not likely to happen anytime soon. We are simulating it to learn some terms related to floods and how to act if we are ever in this situation.
The water is so strong that even 6 inches of flash flood are enough to slow cars or even lift them up. Everything that is not bolted down will be carried away.
Look at this, there's a huge log coming towards us in the water.
Water flowing at 10 miles per hour can produce the same force as wind blowing at 300 miles per hour. It can carry trees and debris for miles downstream.
So, what should we do in case of a flood? Like in a fire drill or an earthquake drill, there are some basic rules. First, stay calm. Get as high as possible and make yourself visible while waiting for first responders. In most cases, we have warning regarding storms and we can prepare in advance. Before Sandy, for example, there were weather forecasts days in advance, and it gave enough time to move all the cars to the top of the motorgate garage. We are now just passing this motorgate garage, and if you look to the top of it, you can see the helicopters that we planted there.
When expecting a severe storm, the city recommends that specific areas will be evacuated. The evacuation warnings are issued 36 to 48 hours prior to the storm, depending on its severity. Most of Roosevelt Island's parts are in Evacuation Zone 2, and the higher middle parts of Southtown are in Zone 3.
To recap what Glenn was just saying, the important thing is to know that Roosevelt Island is in Evacuation Zone 2 and 3. To put things into perspective, the flood that we've just gone through is even worse than a 1 in a 100 years event. The water of a flood can go down as quickly as it came. And as they go down, we can see that this is the expected height for a 1 in a 100-year flood. And this is the expected height for a 1 in 50 years flood. Remember we talked about the regenerative power of trees. Here to the right of us there is an excellent example of new trees that were planted by active members of the community. And they want to add 10 trees for each one taken down. Seeing this example is a good reminder to focus on the things we should do today.
After a flood, the water level can go down as quickly as it went up, but the damage can shut down the city for days. In addition, flooding can inundate underground tunnels and low-lying roads for days, leaving train and bus routes impossible to operate.
Getting closer to our last stop, we can see the after effects of a flood. Debris is scattered everywhere, and there are probably people who need help. We stop the ride at this point to spark a conversation, to think proactively. What should we as a community do to better prepare for this kind of an event? How to recover? How to help those in need? Those are some of the things we will discuss in the post-ride focus group. We will drive quietly back to campus. Take the way back as an opportunity to let things sink in, to reflect. We hope this ride helped you understand our current state and different possibilities of what the future may look like. Most importantly, we hope you learned some actions we can do right now to reverse the negative impact. We will discuss those options more in the post-ride focus group.